Dr. Peter Chojnowski, who is a professor of philosophy and writer for Catholic Family News. He's written about economic things. He's written about historical things such as Franco, terrific five-part series on Archbishop Lefebvre and Paul VI. And today his title is The Message of La Salette, Living Through the Eclipse of the Church. Please welcome Dr. Peter Chojnowski.
Melanie Calvat begins her account of the apparition of Our Lady at La Salette on September 19th, 1846, as follows. When I woke up, I couldn't see the cows, so I called Maximin. Can we imagine her saying, when I lost my internet connection, I called Maximin? We can't believe. We can only see the wisdom of Our Lady appearing in the peace of the sheep and the cows and amongst the simple souls. She continues, when I woke up, I couldn't see the cows, so I called Maximin and climbed up the little mound. From there, I could see our cows grazing peacefully, and I was on my way down with Maximin on his way up, when all at once I saw brightness like the sun. It was far more brilliant, but it had not the same color. And I said to Maximin, come quick and see the bright light down there. And Maximin came down, saying, where is it? I pointed to it near the little spring, and he stopped when he saw it. Then we saw a lady in the bright light. She was sitting with her head in her hands. We were afraid. I let my stick fall. Then Maximin said, keep your stick. If it does anything, I'll give it a good knock. Then the lady rose up, crossed her arms, and said to us, come near, my children. Be not afraid. I am here to tell you great news. She said to us, weeping all the time that she spoke. And Melanie says, I clearly saw her tears falling. If my people will not submit, I shall be forced to let go the hand of my son. It is so strong, so heavy, that I can no longer uphold it. For how long a time do I suffer for you? If I would not have my son abandon you, I am compelled to pray for you without ceasing. And as to you, you take no heed of it. How much you pray, however much you pray, however much you do, you will never recompense the pains I have taken for you. And what does she come to convey? 6 days have I given you to labor. The 7th I have kept for myself. They will not give it to me. It is this which makes the hand of my son so heavy. Those who drive the carts cannot swear without introducing the name of my son. These are the two things which make the hand of my son so heavy. If the harvest is spoilt, it is all on your account. So these are the words, the opening words of Our Lady at the Alpine hamlet of La Salette. She first speaks to the common people, and she says, "You have violated the sacred by breaking the Sabbath and taking the Lord's name in vain." My job today is going to be easy because I'm simply need to repeat the words of Our Lady that she meant to give us at La Salette. But here I want to state this. I will not try to filter the words of Our Lady at La Salette. Unlike John the 23rd, when speaking about the long-awaited third secret of Fatima, he said, "This is not for my pontificate." When Our Lady specifically said that the secret was to be opened and proclaimed by 1960. Also, when he did the same thing again at the opening of Vatican II on October 11th, 1962, the feast of the divine maternity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, he said, to contrast it with what he intended, he said, "We reject the prophets of doom." Who could he mean but the children of La Salette and the children of Fatima? We remember also the statement by Cardinal Ratzinger that the revelations in which Sister Lucia Fatima had in her convent were most likely compilations of images which she received from devotional books. And also we remember in 2000, about the third secret, we were told that it was about a vision of a failed assassination attempt, even though the vision itself did not involve a failed assassination attempt, but a successful one. In presenting the message of La Salette, I will let Our Lady speak for herself, as if she might actually have a greater perspective than we do. Maybe heaven has a message for man that was meant to clarify for us the position that Catholics are in this time and place. If it is an authentic message which has received the approbation of Holy Mother Church, let us hear it and let it speak to us. And also let it speak for itself. We must also, and I want to do this, we must also attend to the attitude of the visionaries of La Salette, the two little children, Melanie and Maximin, because their attitude is in stark contrast to the universal attitude in modernist philosophy towards the world. For me, their attitude helps to prove the authenticity of this apparition. We see this when we contrast the modernist psychobabble and their subjectivist and egocentric understanding of the world with the disarming realism of the seers Melanie and Maximin. When these were cross-examined about the apparition, we think here of Martin Heidegger, the mentor of Karl Rahner, the most prestigious theologian at Vatican II. For Martin Heidegger, the world was my world, Dasein, the world of my consciousness, in which everything appears as only a tool and an instrument only meant to advance my project. Outside of my project, the things in my world have no meaning. This is the modernist view. And yet, every time the adults, primarily the clerical adults, try to get the children to admit that this purported apparition was simply a projection of the children's own little project, they were knocked down by peasant realism. I'll give you some examples. A priest interrupted Melanie. The priest says, "The lady disappeared in the clouds?" Melanie, "There was no cloud." Priest, "But it is easy to surround oneself with a cloud and disappear." Melanie, "Then do you, sir, surround yourself with a cloud and disappear?" Question to Maximin. "The lady has deceived you, Maximin. She foretold to you a famine, and yet the harvest is everywhere good." Maximin, "How does that regard me? She told it to me, the rest concerns her." Melanie, questioner, "The lady you saw was but a bright and luminous cloud." Melanie, "But a cloud does not speak." Questioning both to Maximin, "But perhaps it was the devil that gave you this secret." Maximin, "No, but the devil does not have our Lord on his breast," meaning the cross of La Salette. The devil does not have our Lord on his breast, and the devil does not forbid a blasphemy. Melanie came in. He would not forbid swearing. He would not carry the cross. He would not tell us to go to Mass. Questioner, "In fact, this lady whom you saw is in prison at Grenoble." Maximin, "He will be a very clever man who catches her." I should like to be in that prison. And when we think of Heidegger's Denken thought, the all-encompassing thought of Heidegger, the questioner says, "What were you thinking of whilst the lady spoke to you?" Maximin, "I listened." This unpretentious, matter-of-fact realism was backed up by the fact that the children of La Salette did not benefit in any way from the apparition. In fact, a bishop in France, one that was to be the leader of French liberalism, French liberal Catholicism in the 19th century, Bishop Félicité Dupenloup, sort of fits, Yeah, fitting. He was. It's fun saying that name. He went to La Salette to interview the children himself. And contrary, he was a very, I don't know, sort of an effete kind of man. So this sort of peasant, rustic vulgarity of the children sort of turned him off to them personally. But he said, in fact, after he left, he said, "The fact is certain that neither one nor the other had any desire whatever to speak of the event which made them so celebrated. I will add that during the past 2 years, the children and their parents have remained as poor as before. This is a fact which I have verified sufficiently for my own satisfaction, and which it is most easy to prove beyond a doubt. The fact is that they do not even understand the honors which they have received, and seem to have no idea of the interest which attaches to their name." When Monsignor Dupenloop was there, and there was 60,000 pilgrims that came to La Salette, and yet he says about the children, viewing them, they have given themselves no airs of importance whatsoever. In consequence, nor have they shown any assumption, either in their speech or manners. They regard all without any astonishment, without a thought. And listen, without a return upon themselves. The children's story did not alter, even though there was vicious clerical persecution of the children and an attempt to suppress the secret. Even though the apparition was approved by the Holy See, the secret itself was never promoted by the ecclesiastical establishment, despite papal recommendations and many imprimaturs. In fact, the faithful were led to believe that it had actually been placed on the index of forbidden books. Melanie was persecuted to such a degree in her own country that for long periods she was forced to live incognito in Italy, where she died at the age of 72. How can this be? Since her own bishop, when she was in Italy, her own bishop, the ordinary of the diocese, asserts that everything, I guarantee, that everything that has been conveyed to you, the ecclesiastical authorities, everything that she has published, the full secret that she published in 1879 was exactly what she told me years earlier. And he says, as abbot of the Canons Regular, his name is Bishop Zola. He says, as abbot of the Canons Regular of the Lateran at Santa Maria di Piedigrotto in Naples, I had occasion in my capacity as superior of that order to maintain relations with very respected prelates and princes of the Roman Church. They were rather well informed in regard to Melanie and her secrets. Almost all had received that document. Every one of them, without exception, judged very favorably of the divine revelation and the authenticity of the secret. In fact, Bishop Zola says, in 1879, our Holy Father, Leo XIII, deigned to honor Melanie with a private audience and also charged her with compiling the rules of the new order recommended and requested by Our Lady at La Salette under the title of the Apostles of the Latter Days. If this is the case, if Leo XIII invites her to Rome and tells her to follow up on her commission from Our Lady to establish a new order, why was this message not ingrained in the minds of the faithful? Why hasn't it been ingrained in the minds of the faithful for the last 130 years? There's a reason. Guess the reason? Money. Money. The root of all evil. Monsignor, Bishop Zola testifies to this. Monsignor Courtet, a French bishop, behind the scenes, was making every effort to have the secret put on the index of forbidden books on the pretext that it was causing trouble in France. When Rome heard his case, they rejected it. The Holy Office rejected his claim and endorsed the secret. They refused to condemn it. However, he found a way. He went to the secretary of the Holy Office, Cardinal Caterini, and threatened the withdrawal of Peter's pence that came from France. So, guess what happens? Soon after, a letter was issued, dated August 8th, 1880, which stated that the work in question, namely the secret of La Salette, had been remitted, I'm quoting, remitted to the inquisitors, who found it proper to reply that it was not pleasing to the Holy See that the said work be delivered to the public, and expressed the desire that wherever copies had been distributed, they be removed as soon as possible from the hands of the faithful. This letter by the Secretary of the Holy Office responding to this threat, financial threat, brought the dissemination of the secret to a standstill in France, as far as the establishment was concerned. We know that Cardinal Caterini's letter was an act of a party acting independent of the Pope, and even acting independent of the Congregation of the Index, and acting independent of the Holy Office. However, this letter's effect on Melanie was profound, because Melanie was unable to prove without a shadow of doubt that the letter had been sent without the Pope's knowledge. She believed herself bound to comply with its stricture to the end of her life. Privately, she admitted that the letter had poisoned her existence by making it impossible to fulfill her mission confided to her by Our Lady, at least in France. In 1904, when Melanie died, the enemies of La Salette hoped to deal the final blow to the secret. A decree was promulgated on December 21st, 1915, which ordered the faithful of all countries to abstain from treating or discussing this said question under whatever pretext or form, either in book, pamphlet, or article, signed or anonymous, or in any other way. Although this act was recorded in the Acta Apostolicae Sedis, dated December 31st of 1915, 100 years ago, it bore the signature of no cardinal, no member of the Holy Office. It was simply signed by a notary, Luigi Castellano. It shows no evidence whatsoever, nor does it say that this case had been submitted to Pope Benedict XV for his final approval. But it was enough. This prohibition, this seeming prohibition, has been brandished like a club over the head of the faithful for 100 years to prevent them from hearing a message addressed to all Our Lady's people. Ironically, God brings good out of evil. The secret of La Salette finally broke free of all restriction when Paul VI abolished the Index of Forbidden Books in 1966. By then, of course, the events predicted by the secret were already unfolding.